The needle has been around for a long time. It was first invented in 1853. Most vaccines are delivered that way, but there's special needs when we seek to vaccinate in places like Africa. Almost half the vaccines aren't working properly in Africa just because the refrigeration process isn't working properly because most vaccines need to be refrigerated. On top of that, you have needle stick injuries, all manner of other problems tied up with infrastructure in what's termed as low resource regions. So that's quite a bottleneck that leads to a couple of million deaths per year. It's an important problem. So, as I mentioned before, the needle's been the way that vaccines have been delivered. It's the status quo. We've been working on ways to get around the shortcomings of the needle, and the Nanopatch is the key technology that we've been focusing on.
So just describe to us how this works, and I think perhaps you've got a sample there, maybe you can demonstrate how it works.
Yeah, I think one of the things I love about being an engineer is you can bring along your devices, so I'd be happy to describe that. But the Nanopatch, many people are familiar with, say, a nicotine patch, for instance. The Nanopatch is very, very different to that. A nicotine patch, the nicotine makes its own way into the skin because it can do that because the nicotine is small. The Nanopatch has thousands of tiny little projections. You can't see them. To the naked eye, it just looks like a flat surface. But those projections, we dry coat vaccines too, and we apply the patch to the skin, like in this type of device, for a very short period of time, just a matter of seconds. And in that period of time, the vaccine is delivered to our immune sweet spot within the skin to make vaccines work better. Now, how this matters, like somewhere in the developing world, well, it can help on many levels. So first, it makes vaccines work better. That's important for key diseases like malaria, where there's no adequate vaccination method for malaria. The second is the vaccine is dry-coated, so that means it doesn't need refrigeration. And the third is it's so simple, you don't necessarily need to be a trained practitioner. So if you bundle all of these attributes together conceptually in the future, you might be able to post these patches out to people to self-apply.
So just give us a quick demonstration if you could then. I think you've got an assistant with you.
I've got an assistant here.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Jenny. So Jenny, I'll just get your arm up here a bit. Yeah, okay. So this is the Nanopatch applicator, and here's the patch. And essentially what you do is just apply the patch like that, and remove. And that's how it works.
Okay, so that obviously also overcomes a stigma a lot of people would have about having a needle stuck in their arm as well.
That's true. Most people just don't like the needle. That's a fact of life. But there is a slice of the population that have this thing. It's called needlephobia. Some estimate that could be 20% of the population. And when you get into those sorts of numbers, it actually matters a lot because you're thinking of 1 in 5 people are actively trying to avoid being vaccinated because they don't like the needle. And that's got massive healthcare knock-on effects.
And particularly for kids, I would think this was important.
And the parents. I've got a 4-year-old son, and my wife took him to be vaccinated, and she said, "I can't do it again." And so you do it. And I thought, what's the big deal? And I took him in, and it was quite a traumatic experience. And when you think it through, most of the vaccines that take place for young children. 70% of the vaccine market is paediatric, so it's an important area for us to try and tackle.
And Mark, just quickly, is this also applicable for more than just vaccines?
Well, that's a very good question. We've been thinking that through. Vaccines are a subset of a technical term we call immunotherapeutics. So vaccines alone is a massive and important market, but there's other key areas in immunotherapeutics. One would be allergy desensitization. I think there's tremendous scope for what we're doing in the skin in that space, but I'm afraid we need to walk before we run. We're up to our eyeballs in activities on vaccines alone, so I think we'll be focusing on that for quite some time.
All right, Mark Kendall, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.